basics. We both know what we want, let's just keep it simple. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. We dance on the same wavelength. This feels like a new beginning. We both know what we want, let's just keep it simple. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So won't you let me trip, trip, trip with you? Leaning down
What up? Welcome to another episode of AJAWI TV, where we discuss architectural and construction related topics. I'm your host, I'm AJAWI, and for today, we'll be talking about something that I believe all of us as Jamaicans need to pay attention to, right? So I want to say welcome to all, right? Welcome to all. It's another week, another opportunity for us to be great, right? And it's a Sunday, and as usual, I try to, spend some time with you guys on a Sunday, just vibing and discussing some topics that I think we should be discussing as Jamaicans and as returning residents looking to return to Jamaica to do construction. So, if you're in the chat, Wayne Smith, big up yourself. I see you're the first person here today, right? If you're in the chat, give me a shout out. If you can hear me, let me know. If you can't hear me, let me know. And I will, give you a shout out. And also, it also helps the channel to be a little bit more interactive. It's not all about me being here and, just going on and on about things, but it's more about a discussion around the different topics, right? For today, I want to ask a question as a returning resident. You being the returning resident, I want to ask you a question that, I think is very important to ask. I think it's very important for us to discuss it, right? The question of today, or the question of the day is, what do you know about carbon footprint, right? What do you know about it? Do you think it is important? Do you even consider it when you're doing construction? That's the question of the day, right? What really is carbon footprint? And how is it affecting you as a returning resident? How is it affecting you as a Jamaican resident? How is it affecting you as somebody who is doing construction? Or how are you as a person or individual doing construction? How are you affecting it if it's the other way around? So that's really the discussion that I want to have with you today. And, delving into this, I think that you may be surprised how important it is. All right. So, what is carbon footprint? Right. That's the question. Comment in the chat section. Let it be a interactive discussion. Right. Let it be an interactive live, and let's take it away. All right. Guys, Wayne Smith, I see you have a question. Could you tell me the price of a 2-bedroom? You went live sometime this week. The sun was shining one way and the wind was blowing through another way. I don't know what you're saying. Could I tell you the price of a 2-bedroom? No, I could not. Right? I could not tell you the price of a 2-bedroom. That question is very big. I don't know what you're asking really. So, sorry man. You have to structure your question a little bit better for me to be able to answer your questions that way. Alright? Alright, so what is carbon footprint? Right? What is carbon footprint? Carbon footprint, to me, right, based on my understanding of it, is how are you as an individual, right? It relates to how you as an individual are contributing to the amount of carbon emission that is entering into our atmosphere, right? Or how much greenhouse gases are we releasing into the atmosphere as building professionals, as somebody who is doing construction? How is this, going to affect us, right? That's really what it is. How we, the amount of emissions that we put into the atmosphere whether directly or indirectly, right? That is related to the amount of greenhouse gases. This can be carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, it can be the burning of fossil fuel, stuff like that, right? So we are really putting out carbon emissions in our atmosphere on a regular basis, whether we like it or not, right? How do we know, or how can we recognize ways that we are putting out carbon emission? I'll discuss that a little bit further. But think of it this way: if you drive, if you take the bus, if you as much as cook in your house, you are affecting carbon footprint, right, as an individual. So that's really what it's about. It's about the amount of carbon or greenhouse gases that we put into the atmosphere, right? Let me say this. Let me also say this. Greenhouse gases, they're natural, right? It's natural things that happen. But here's the thing that happens. If you understand what a greenhouse is, right, you'll understand how it will affect us. Here's the thing. So you have some plants in the back of your yard, right? And you decided that you want to create a greenhouse, right? You want to create a greenhouse. So you decided that, okay, you're going to, you put some plastic over an enclosed area, and then when the sun shines, it hits that plastic, and there's a microclimate within that greenhouse, right? Within that space. That microclimate, once the sunlight hits it, and then the light enters into the space, what will happen is that inside the space, the temperature will get hotter, right? This is just me trying to explain it as in a layman term, as basic as I possibly can, right? So within that space, it gets hot, right? Or it gets a little bit warmer, right? When the sun goes away, that temperature is controlled and it takes time and dissipate. Here's what happens with the earth in that case, with carbon footprint. Normally, what the sun does is hit the earth, right? Then the heat from the sun goes into the atmosphere. The earth itself, or the soil, absorbs some of that heat. The particles within the atmosphere, absorb some of that as well. You and I absorb some of that heat as well. The ocean also absorbs some of that heat as well, and the rest is dissipated back out into space, right? That's how the natural process is supposed to be, right? Now, what happens is that because these greenhouse gases are there, it creates a layer, and it causes that trapped heat to be trapped on the inside of the atmosphere, right? So I hope I'm explaining it good. So it causes it to be trapped on the inside, right? What happens now is that it starts to heat up on the inside. So you will have more storms, or more volatile storms, or more frequent storms. You will have the ocean heating up more than it's supposed to, which causes hot and cold water to mix together. That causes more currents during the more currents on the sea. So the sea gets rougher, right? Also, areas that don't normally flood, you'll have flash floods in those areas, because areas that don't normally have a lot of rainfall now has a lot of rainfall, and that causes flash flood, right? Just the other day, Montego Bay, our area in Montego Bay had flash floods which destroy roads, destroy buildings. So those are the ways that carbon footprint affect you and I. So we because we rely on the built environment, these natural disasters or natural occurrences does affect us. Now, you as the homeowner, how does this affect you? Right? So you are building a house. Alright, let's go to the chat. Green Orchid, what do you think of tiny homes with container as a base, less construction time, and design same per what? Where can I see this better? Oh, same prefab. What do I think about it? Less construction time, yes, I agree with that. But are you speaking in relation to our carbon footprint? Is that the direction that you're taking it from? Right? Yeah, so back to what I was saying. Mark Q Spence, big up yourself. Yani Yvonne Barcos, big up yourself. Who else is here? Green Orchid, big up yourself. And Dwayne Smith, big up yourself. Alright, so the way how I look at it is this. If I am doing construction, right? First of all, we have to go through the design process, regardless of what we're doing, because we must get approval for what we're doing, right? But the problem that I believe we have is that most of the times we are not necessarily designing to think about carbon footprint in the first place. And I think, or I believe, most homeowners, most returning residents, that's the last thing that they have on their mind. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? If I'm wrong, correct me. Do you think about carbon footprint when you're doing construction? I believe most homeowners don't, right? And at the end of the day, because they are not thinking about this, they design any and any way, or they want a home to be designed in any way that they feel like it should be designed, which is bad, because at the end of the day, these are things that the professionals would think about, right? So for example, let's just give you one example of how your home actually affects carbon footprint. So you decide that you're going to design your home. You did not consider the orientation of your building. You did not consider any natural cooling methods, right? You design your home because a lot of people come to me with that, saying that they're designing their home, right? And they don't consider the orientation of the building in relation to the sun path of the site, especially within the tropical environment, right? So what you find is that we have big glass windows, because I get that a lot. A lot of people come to me and they're like, hey, I draw my plan, and I have some big glass windows here, and I want these windows to be, I want these massive glass windows because I want light and I want the sunlight to come in within a tropical environment, right? At which point I'm like, within the tropical environment, you want sunlight, direct sunlight to come into your building. Why do you want this? And most of the times, because they're living overseas, and that's what they see in America, in England as the norm, and not considering that they are in a colder climate, they are now going to come to the tropical environment and try to do that simply because that's what they see, and that's the societal norm of what looks good, right? So they see that and they come into the tropical environment and they want the big glass windows. Here's the problem with that. You have this big glass windows, no shading for it, and you are in an enclosed environment. The sun is directly coming in. Guess what will happen? it will get extremely hot, right? It will get unbearably hot because sunlight equals heat or heat gain, right? All right, sunlight, that's not a big deal, right? Little heat, that's not a big deal. But what about when you are in that space, right? And you are hot. What will you do? More likely, you will resort to turning on the AC or using AC or installing AC. You have now started to affect carbon footprint. You are now putting out dangerous gases into the environment because you're now using the AC, right? You're using more electricity. What does electricity require to be produced? Oil or fossil, no, not oil, fuel, right? Fossil fuel. Now burning off that fuel, that will put gases into the environment, right? CO2, you name it. I don't know the specific name for them, but you're now putting out carbon dioxide into the environment, right? More of it. So therefore, your building cost, your initial building cost may have been low, right? Because you decided that you wanted to just design it with a little man, right? Without considering these little areas, these design decisions, right? And now you are in a position where you need to use artificial cooling, which then sends up the cost of your living, right? And also affects carbon footprint. So that's a way that you are affecting carbon footprint, right? So that's just one way. Let's look at another way that you should recognize, right? That affects your pocket immediately because it does affect the cost of construction, and also it affects the environment as it relates to CO2 or carbon footprint, right? So you have your construction going on, say in deep rural St. Elizabeth, for example, deep rural St. Elizabeth, right? And you're doing construction. You decide that you want the best tile, and the only way for you to get those tiles that you want is from a tile supplier in Kingston. How do you think that you will affect carbon footprint in this way and the cost of construction, right? Yvonne, big up yourself. Yeah, blessed Sunday for real. I'm enjoying the Sunday, you know. A little bit tired, but you know, I just have to manage, right? So here's how this affects your construction site, or you as an individual, right? Or your construction costs. Because you are now in a position where you need to buy material in Kingston, you're going to pay more for transportation, right? You're going to be paying more on transportation from Kingston to St. Elizabeth, which affects the carbon footprint and affects the overall project cost, because the truck that has to transport the material has to burn gas or fuel to deliver that material to your site, right? So how do you reduce carbon footprint? Simply by buying materials in close proximity to your construction site. Simply doing that actually helps reduce carbon footprint, right? And one example that I think you will have an appreciation for is Helsha. Helsha is not there anymore because of our carbon footprint, right? Have you visited Helsha in recent times? Have you gone there to have a swim? I remember when I was a boy, and well, when I was a child, I'm still a boy. I remember when I was a child and I went to Helsha and there was a beach there. right? There was a beach. Now, when you go to Hellshire, there is no longer a beach. There is just a cliff or a drop off. That's what I call it, right? There's just a drop off because the sea is reclaiming the land. Why is this? Because the sea is got rougher, right? So it's eating away at the land or reclaiming the land, bringing it back into the sea simply because of carbon footprint, right? So you as a homeowner, you have a responsibility as well. So try and reduce your carbon footprint. Here's another way that I believe is very important. Simply the use of water. How we use water. Right? I bet you never know that. Water. Simply having water available to you. And there are measures that you can take. Right? So in order to purify the water, they have to buy materials to put inside the water to clean it. And they have to burn electricity, which again goes back to burning of fuel. They have to then transport it to you. And then you get to use it. But if you don't have that, or if you're using excess amount of water, then they will have to use more fuel to burn to purify that water so that you can have it, right? One way that I believe that as homeowners you can combat or control your level of carbon emission is simply by catching water or utilizing catchment methods on your property. That means that as a homeowner, you're supposed to have a water tank on your property, right? If you're designing your home and you are not thinking about water storage in this day and age, you have a problem, right? Water storage is very important. Think about it, do it, right? Always store water on your site, at your home. You may not necessarily be using it for drinking purposes, but you can purify it and utilize it maybe to wash dishes, maybe to do the laundry, maybe to do water the lawn, or wash your hands. These are little ways that you can utilize that water, or catch water from the rain from your roof, right, to then utilize to really control your carbon footprint, right? I think a lot of people complain sometimes that they don't have water in this day and age, and when you ask them, do they have a tank, they don't. So if your home has already been constructed, you can take steps to install a water tank. Maybe you install it underneath your driveway, right, in the back at your backyard, or even under your building. Some people do it under the building itself, right? Depends on how close it is to the boundary, right? Make sure that you are in compliance. So get it designed, get it constructed properly, and have water storage on your property. That means that whenever everybody else is complaining that they don't have water during the drought time, you can have water, right? So that is very important. Too many times you have people suffering in Jamaica because of lack of water, right? And it's a free resource, right? Water is free. It comes from the sky. It's just that some of us is too lazy, to catch it, right? So try to store water on your site by installing a water tank. And I'm not talking those Rhino tank. I'm talking build a tank underground and store your water, all right? Another way that we can also reduce our carbon footprint is by installing solar or utilizing solar power, right? Remember, the sun is free, and even though it is very expensive, I think it's very expensive to the initial cost of it. Is the upfront cost is very expensive. But if it is that you make that investment, I think you will regain it over time, right? Because you will be paying less electricity. Utilize ways to allow natural sunlight to enter your building, but not direct sunlight, right? Not direct sunlight. So whenever you're doing construction, one of the first thing that I do, well, when you're doing a design, right, the first thing that I do is visit the site to really get what the site conditions are. And what I'm looking out for are microclimates that may be on the site, how the site is oriented in relation to the sun, how the sun is passing over the site, right? And for our environment, or for our climate, our location, what we want to do, or what you want to do, is to face away from the sun, right? So south facing walls towards the south of your property that is looking directly at the sun, you want your service areas to be in those locations, right? You want your service areas to be in those locations. That's stuff like your bathroom, your kitchen, wash area. You want those areas to be in those locations because, you know, direct sunlight is coming in that area, right? And that, because those are there and you spend less time within these space, you won't have a need to really cool those areas as much as you need to cool it in areas that you're spending more of your time in, right? So think about that. You want to utilize shading devices whenever you are looking at installing large open windows or glass windows, because I know a lot of us like that. I've been to buildings where I see they create just a whole wall that is glass and it is facing the south. Now inside that building is going to be very hot, right? So you have to utilize techniques to really cool the building, and that starts from the design phase, right? So you want to have, if you're going to install large glass windows, you want those on the north of the property, right? The north facing side is where you would want to put those, right? For the east and west, so the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So on the east side of the building, you kind of want to have, you don't necessarily want to have big windows, but glass windows or larger glass windows can be on that side, but should have shading devices. And the reason why you can take a chance with that side is because the sun is going towards the west. So that means by the time that room heats up in the morning and the sun passes over your building, that side of the property will start to cool down already, right? So you want to have bedrooms on those sides so that by the time you're ready to sleep, that room has already cooled. So you don't necessarily need to use artificial cooling, right? But you should be designing in such a way that you avoid putting large windows on these areas, so that large glass windows, so that you can reduce the amount of the need for artificial cooling. All right. With the use of shading devices, the direction of the sun affects the direction of the shading devices. A shading device is a device that you put on the south of your building is going to be oriented different from the one that you put on the east. So I see a lot of people, they install shading devices and they don't really serve a purpose unless they're completely closed, right? Because the orientation of it, because of the way the sun is passing across the side, it makes it ineffective. right? So think about those, right? So as I said, you want to have glass windows on the north. Why do I say this? Because the sun is not shining from the north, right? It's not, the sun is not in the north, so therefore it's better to have larger windows in those on that side of the building, because less direct sunlight is coming in. You're having indirect sunlight. So at the end of the day, because you're now being naturally cooled, you are going to be in a position where you're going to need to use less electricity to cool yourself, right? And that overall affects carbon footprint. Another thing that I see people doing, they have windows in the house and the window is above the waist or the midsection. So they will have a window that is high and they're saying that, hey, I want some, windows up there because it look nice, or some higher level windows because it look nice and all of that. But they don't realize that if you're in a building, right, and you have a window inside it, if wind or breeze from that window or that is entering through that window is passing above here, you're gonna be hot, right? You're gonna still be hot. So you want windows to be lower so that it cool the midsection of your body, right? This is where you get hot from, right? So you want windows to be lower, waist height if possible, so that it can be passing across the body, across the midsection in particular, to really take that heat and transfer it elsewhere. Alright, so think about that when you're installing windows. And how does this affect carbon footprint? Again, if your body is hot, you're going to be uncomfortable. There's a certain threshold that if you're within that threshold of heat, there is comfort. Once you go outside of that, there is discomfort. And that is why you find that people are using the fan in their home so often, because they're trying to get back within a comfortable zone as it relates to their the heat threshold that they're in, right? So consider that. So when you're designing your home, or when your technician, when your architect, when your technologist is designing your home, look out for these things, because that's how it affects you. That's how carbon footprints affect you, because you are designing, or you should be designing, with these things in consideration. If you don't, then it becomes a problem for you, because you're going to be using more energy, right? The position of windows in relation to your bed, you really want, when you lie down in your bed and wind is entering or breeze is entering through your window, it's passing across the bed surface or across the body, right? So if your bed is this high and your window is all the way up here, you're not going to be cool, because wind is going to be passing over, right? But again, hot air rise and cold air fall, so there's some amount of leeway, but you want wind or breeze to be passing across the body. So that means whenever your bed is this high, your window should be a little bit above it, or even at the same level if you wish, right? But you don't want it to be too high above the window, right? So those are some ways that you as a homeowner can start looking at your design, and not just say, okay, I want a house and I'm going to draw it and give it to somebody to draw it. Because I get that a lot. People come to me and say, hey, I designed my house, and I just need you to draw it up for me, right? And then they say, it's nothing, it's not anything serious, so you must can give me a better rate since I designed it already. No, you have to think about these things from now in order to make your life better. All right, So consider these things. That's it for today. This is a short one, right? I won't stay with you any longer because I don't want to, drag it too long. But that's how you as a homeowner, right? The next time you see construction going on, ask yourself, or the next time you're doing construction, ask yourself, am I doing things that will end up with me being in a position where I'm affecting or negatively affecting the carbon footprint of our planet? One, and two, am I doing construction in such a way where I'm reducing carbon footprint? And three, is my home designed to be energy efficient? Ask yourself these things, right? So these small windows, you look out for them. When your designer come and him show you a wall of glass in the south or your building, you look out for that. When you have windows that are high up and there's no wind passing across the body, look out for these things, right? Do you have water storage on site, right? Look out for that. Do you need to even use light during the day? Look out for these things, all right? So there you have it. I just wanted to touch on this a little so that you guys can be informed and know and understand that it's not all about just creating some walls and throwing some walls some places. It's about thinking about the long-term effect of your home, not only on the environment but on you as well. All right, so not gonna stay much longer. Peace out. See you next week. All right, guys.